So, you decided to start learning Japanese. Congratulations! Japanese is a beautiful language, and I'm sure that you will find lots of treasures for your creative heart along the way. But what are the first 5 steps that you should take along this way? My name is Jana Sakowska. I've been teaching Japanese for more than 17 years, I guess, already. And I work as a guide in Japan. I give lectures on Japanese history and culture, and I will be happy to guide you on your language learning journey. So let's figure out what are the first 5 steps in learning Japanese. Step 1. Lots of people recommend studying Hiragana and Katakana as your first activity in learning Japanese, and actually I agree. But let me explain why. So step number 1, I suggest that you learn Hiragana and Katakana. These are 2 phonetic alphabets of Japanese language. The reason for that is to train your brain to memorize stuff. Japanese language is a relatively easy language in terms of grammar. For example, the words don't change much, like they don't conjugate much, they don't, I think it's called decline much. So the words stay more or less the same. This is good news. The beautiful news about Japanese is that there is a very beautiful writing system that consists of many Japanese characters. And in order to achieve some fluency in Japanese, a person should learn around 2,000 Japanese characters. That's quite a lot. That's, I think, at least, well, this is typically several years of dedicated study. And learning something easy and functional, such as Hiragana and Katakana at the beginning, is a great way to start. Your brain will train and learn how to connect some graphic object to its meaning, and to make this a habit of making new connections that will help you a lot. So I really recommend starting with Hiragana and Katakana. Both of these alphabets have 46 characters in it. And well, yes, this is like a bit more than in a typical European language, but still okay-ish. And together they, combined, they have 92 characters. This is like close to 100. And if we divide 100 by 2,000 of the characters needed for fluency, this is like roughly 5%. So these are your 5 first steps, 5 first percent of learning the Japanese writing system. For this, you will need a lot of exercise material. And I invite you to check out our ultimate Hiragana reading guide that we prepared with our team for you at the start of your learning journey. And this guide really has everything that you need to deeply understand Hiragana and everything that is related to Hiragana. So this guide has all the writing rules, all the spelling rules, loads of exercises to really get used to Hiragana, and even the native recordings to check yourself while reading. So I suggest that you follow the link in the description and check it out on our Patreon page. Also, on this channel, we are going to soon have additional videos for you to practice Hiragana. So I invite you to like this video, to subscribe to this channel, and I really hope that the content that we are creating will help you on your Japanese learning journey. After you have studied Hiragana and Katakana, you might be interested in learning some grammar to be able to say some sentences in Japanese. And before we dive into steps 2, 3, 4, and 5, I would like to offer an overview of Japanese grammar, and that will naturally lead to those further steps. So I'm going to cover 3 things here. One is tenses in Japanese, the second one will be styles of speech, and the third one will be major parts of speech in Japanese language that matter. So let's start with tenses. And this is actually good news, that Japanese language has only 2 tenses, present future and past. Just think about it, only 2 tenses. Actually, let's perform a festive dance. celebrating only 2 sentences in Japanese language. Come on, let's do it. Let's join me in a 10-second dance celebrating this wonderful fact. Let's do it. Thank you. This is enough. Well, if you wish to, you can continue your festive dance. But meanwhile, I will explain what this essentially means, that Japanese language has only 2 tenses. It means that whatever you are studying, for example, you are studying verbs, and you will need to know how to say a verb in 4 combinations, which are present affirmative, present negative, past affirmative, past negative. As an example, for example, we can have a verb decorate, and in English it will be like I decorate, I don't decorate, I decorated, I didn't decorate. So you see that there are like subtle, small differences in these forms, and Japanese language has something like this. So you will need to learn how to say it. And this applies only to nouns and adjectives. And this, I think, is enough as an overview of the tenses. So these are really good news. Let's talk about styles of speech in Japanese. There are 2 major styles of speech, which is polite speech and informal speech. Actually, we can, like, if we look really attentively, we can say that there is like high polite speech and rude informal speech. But essentially, there are 2 levels of speech that really differ in grammar patterns. And you will need to learn how to say the same thing in polite speech and in informal speech. They will sound very different. You can ask, okay, what should I study first? There isn't like an absolute answer to that, because I think foreigners studying Japanese mostly start with polite speech, because this is like ready-made for a lot of everyday situations. It sounds polite enough not to offend anyone, and so it's like really very useful for talking in standard conversations in Japan. For example, in a language school, at a shop, wherever. This is really useful. As for the informal speech, well, Japanese children, when they learn to speak, first they learn informal speech, and then they relearn, the polite speech, and relearn how to say the things that they are used to say in informal speech, now in polite speech. So there are like pros and cons of every style, and you can choose. I think, well, probably. As most of the textbooks concentrate on polite speech first, I can tentatively suggest that you pick this first and stick with it for a while, and then you can explore the informal speech. And the last thing here, before we go into the steps, is the major parts of speech. In Japanese language, it is very important with which word the sentence ends, because this is the last word of the sentence that gives the essential information, which is it which tense is it out of 2, and is it a affirmative sentence or a negative sentence. The sentence can have some clues in the middle that indicate whether it is affirmative or negative, but essentially only after we finish reading the sentence or listen to the sentence, we can be sure whether it is affirmative or negative. And also the last word of the sentence indicates which style of speech is that, formal or polite or informal. And the words, there are 3 types of words that the sentence can end with. These are nouns, adjectives, and verbs. And these will be naturally your next steps, steps 2, 3, and 4 in your first 5 steps of learning Japanese. And let me, I think, explore it in a bit of more detail what you should expect, and what you should essentially learn for a good start. Now let's finally get into those steps 2, 3.5, starting with step 2, which is sentences with nouns. These are, I think, the most basic, the simplest sentences that there are in Japanese, and they look like something is something. Where the second something is a noun or a noun-like word, which is a pronoun or I think a numeral. They also behave like nouns. And behaving like nouns means that these words do not change their form. They don't, I think it's called declining. So they stay the same. In Japanese, there is no verb to be as in English. So in English, the verb to be changes, and we can say, for example, I am a magician. I am not a magician. I was a magician. I was not a magician. And thus, the word magician doesn't change, but am not, was not changes. The verb to be changes. In Japanese, there is no such thing as the verb to be. So there is another pattern, and with the sentences that end with nouns, there is a word after that last word in the sentence that is changing, and this word is des. If you follow the polite course, the course of like polite speech, not informal speech, but polite speech, there will be the word des. Look for it. This is when you see the word des, you will know that you are on the right way. So in sentences with nouns, these des at the end changes. If it is present affirmative, it is des. In present negative, de wa arimasen o ji arimasen. In past affirmative, deshita, and in past negative, de wa arimasen deshita o ji arimasen deshita. This is like sounds very, I think, unfamiliar, because I believe that you are a complete beginner, and actually probably this sounded like rubbish. So this is what you should look for, and this will give you a good base for composing the sentences with nouns in Japanese. For example, my dog is 1 year old. This is a sentence with a noun, with a noun like word, which is numeral. 1 year old is a numeral and nounish word in Japanese. Or I don't know, jellyfish are sea creatures, something like that, or they are not like ground creatures. So this type of sentences, you will be able to compose when you study these patterns with nouns. Step 3, exploring adjectives. I won't be giving any more specific grammar stuff to you, because I believe that you are a complete beginner and you are just trying to orient yourself, what should I learn first. So I will just suggest a roadmap for you to follow, and you will be able to explore the specifics of the topics by yourself. So, adjectives in Japanese language. There are two main types of adjectives in Japanese language, which are e-adjectives and na-adjectives. They behave differently, and you should learn a set of rules for each of them. There are also two ways, two places in the sentence, two functions in the sentence that both of adjectives can perform. They can stand in front of a noun, and we can say something like a deep sea, a famous singer, and so on. Or the adjective can serve as a predicate and stand at the end of the sentence to finish the sentence. The examples will be, for example, the sea is deep. Deep here is a predicate. Or the singer is famous or was famous. Again, in English we have the verb to be to operate the sentences, and in Japanese we don't have a verb to be, so we use the adjectives in a very specific way. So what you should learn is, at first, I suggest that you explore the difference between e-adjectives and na-adjectives. This is pretty easy. Then you explore how differently they behave in front of the nouns. It's a very simple rule, but I will leave it to your own explorative process. And as the third step, I think you would be able to learn how differently they behave at the end of the sentence. And there is some good news that na-adjectives behave at the end of the sentence as nouns. They are very noun-like words, but with some specifics with this na thing, which makes them an adjective. And e-adjectives, the other type, behave differently, so you should learn what are the rules that they follow. And something like this, you should be looking for something like this. This is the main set of rules for the polite speech and e-adjectives. And if you explore all these things, you will be able to say sentences like, okay, the sea is deep, or the singer was famous, or if we put an adjective in front of a noun, for example, deep sea is beautiful. They are both in front of a noun and at the end of the sentence. So actually quite lots of things, affirmative, negative, present tense, past tense. And actually that's it about the adjectives. I hope that this plan will help you to explore this topic. Step 4, verbs. Verbs in Japanese is a huge topic. Do not underestimate verbs in Japanese language. The thing is that in European languages, especially in relatively easy, simple languages, like user-friendly languages as English or, for example, Spanish, the verbs are ready-made. We can just take a verb and say, for example, I go, I study, and so on. In Japanese language, it is not that easy. The verbs are, in most cases, the verbs are not ready-made. We should really work on them and tailor them, for example, especially for the polite speech. And we should know what to do with those verbs to use it in polite conversations. So I will offer a roadmap / algorithm what to study to approach the verbs in an effective way. So first sub-step of this step will be identifying the verb groups. There are 3 big verb groups in Japanese and 1 irregular verb, only 1 irregular verb. That's good news. So there are verbs of the first group, of the second group, they differ quite clearly. And also a big group of suru verbs, which make the third group of the verbs. So the first step will be identifying when, for example, when you see a verb, I don't know, narau, to study, which verb group is that? Please pay attention that there are several exceptions from the second group to the first group. These are the verbs like to return home, kaeru, and so on. There are around 30 of them. Please pay attention that there are these exceptions. Otherwise, this is, I think, relatively easy, just identifying the verbs and their verb groups. Sub-step number 2 here is somewhat unfamiliar for the European language speakers, because this is something that does not exist in European languages. These are verb forms. So each verb has 5 forms on which we further tailor to make the final form of the verb that we will use in the sentence. This is something that European languages don't have, as I just already said, but this is important. this is something extra that we should get used to when learning Japanese, these 5 verb forms. And there is a specific set how we form these 5 verb forms for in every verb group. It looks something like this. So if you are exploring the verbs topic and you see something like this, this table, these are the verb forms. What are they used for? I think you are wondering. And well, the answer is here is that there are 5 of them, 5 verb forms, which are indicated as V1, V2, V3, V4, and V5. And they are used when we are forming the final variation of the verb, and V1 is often used when we are aiming at some negative variation of the verb. V2 is very widely used, and for example, we can say we will use this form when we want to say I want to do something, or when we make the polite form of the verb, which I will be talking about in a bit. V3 is the vocabulary form of the verb, which is something that you find in the dictionary, or probably we should call it the dictionary form of the verb. This is like infinitive basic form of the verb. This is the V3. V4 is the conditional form of the verb, which is widely used in some conditional patterns. And V5 is intention and invitation form of the verb. And there are some patterns that express intention or invitation that use this form of the verb. So we need to know which form of the verb to use when we are aiming to say something. And learning Japanese is from a grammar point of view is learning how to say some very specific things, which form of the verb to take, which suffix to attach, and what will be the final form of the verb. Something like that. This is not like a general rule. It says like bit by bit. For example, like as if you are exploring bits of territory in a computer game when there is a lot of terra incognita, and you are, for example, you build a camp in this small space, and then you explore some more of this territory, and you build a tower there, or a second, or some homes, some houses there. And learning Japanese resembles this very much. So you have some comfort zone, and then you explore some more, and you learn how to say more things. This is about what I wanted to say about these 5 verb forms. Don't be afraid, they are all right. Just this is something to get used to as a speaker of a European language. The next thing, and I think that will be the final thing about the verbs, the first things to learn in the topic of verbs, this is the mass form of the verb. This is the main polite form of the verb. And for that, you should you should take V2, which we talked about a bit earlier. And you should, to this V2, you should attach the ending or the suffix mas, and you will get the final form of the verb that you will use in polite speech. This is why you need to identify the verb group, identify the V2 second form of the verb, and only to that you will attach this mas suffix. Sounds, yes, I just listen to what I'm saying. Sounds horrible. This is really not ready-made. But yes, this is what we have in Japanese, and with some practice that will be very quick and absolutely like automatic. This sounds probably discouraging, but it's really okay. You will be okay. And with this mass form of the verb, you will have again these 4 variations: present affirmative, present negative, past affirmative, present past negative. They are quite all right. Step 5. In this step, I suggest that you explore particles. Particles in Japanese language are something like prepositions in English. So, for example, I go by car. By, I believe that this is a preposition in English. Not so sure about that. But in Japanese, that will be definitely a particle. And particles in a sentence work to connect words with each other, and each of the particles has a function, what they are showing, indicating. For example, there is a particle de, which is showing the place of some active action. Or there is a particle ni, which shows the exact time of action. Or there is a particle to, which means with whom this action is performed. For example, I go with my brother. There is, for example, a particle e, which indicates the direction of some movements. For example, I go to a cinema with my brother. So in English, we have this to and with, and in Japanese, we'll have e and to in these respective places. And for example, the above mentioned particle de, which means the transport, or some tool of action. I go by car, or did I mention that earlier? Not important. So I go by car, or I write with a pencil, or I send a document by email. These all are tools in Japanese language, and in all these cases, the particle de will be used. So this is the list of main particles that I invited to explore at the beginning of your Japanese language studies, and I hope that they will broaden your ability to express yourself in Japanese. Let's wrap up. These are the first 5 steps that I suggest that you take to start learning Japanese. The first step, Hiragana and Katakana, to help your brain to train to memorize new stuff. Step 2, nouns. Step 3, adjectives. Step 4, a big topic, verbs. And step 5, particles. I hope that this overview gives you like a roadmap, what to explore, what to study, especially if you are self-studying. And I hope that you will enjoy your learning journey. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more videos that I hope will help you along your learning journey. And I invite you to check out our Patreon page for the ultimate Hiragana reading guide, reading manual. I hope you like it. And as usual, follow your creative heart, learn Japanese. I'll see you next time.